a very useful way to control your portion sizing is to actually use your hand. So you've got your hand with you at all times, and you can actually use it to divide up your macronutrients. So we generally like to use the palm of our hand for protein. So protein is things like meat, fish, egg whites, and generally a palm of protein ends up being about 100 grams of the actual weight, but then 25 grams of the protein macronutrient. So about 250 calories. So this is relevant because your palm is usually in relation to your body size. So generally if you're bigger, you'll have a larger palm, and if you're smaller and lighter, you'll have a smaller palm. So that's your protein. Half a cup tanned for carbohydrate. So if you're thinking like this picture, half a cup tanned, that will equal about 20 to 30 grams of the macronutrient carbs, and about 100 grams in weight, again, of carbohydrate. So things like rice, sweet potato, quinoa, that sort of stuff. Fist of veggies, obviously we want to eat as many veggies as possible, so try and get at least a fist of veggies. So this is things like broccoli, zucchini, capsicum, anything like that, and try and fit this in as many meals as you can. And then a thumb of fats. I generally say actually the whole length of your thumb. So fats generally tend to be more nutrient dense per weight. So that's 7 to 12 grams of fat. The reason this is lighter is because fats are actually 9 calories per gram, whereas protein and carbs are 4 calories per gram. So while this is lighter and less dense, it is higher in calories, and it's also obviously going to add up a lot faster. Generally, using this at a meal can help to make sure that you're getting a balance of all the macronutrients, because each one has a very important value in your body. So you need protein, you need carbs, you need veggies, and you need fats. The reason we have veggies on their own is because they're so nutrient dense, people will forget them if they're not included. So generally this technique is very helpful if you're using it for meal prep, making decisions at a restaurant or at a party. So if you're feeling a little bit lost as to what to have in your meals, you can use your hand, and then of course use it in any situation. So if you're at a party making decisions for dinner, or at a restaurant looking at what's on the menu, or of course what to put in your meal prep, you can use your hand with your palm for protein, half a cup hand for carbohydrate, fist of veggies, and a thumb for fats. When you're at home, you can be a bit more accurate and use your scales. But generally, if you know your palm and you know your portion sizing, this becomes a pretty foolproof way to make sure you're getting all your meals in. All right, let's go on to the next one. So now, while it's really good to know your portion sizing, it's also good to know actual sources of the food. So if you're looking at your hand and you're like, shit, what actually is a protein? This little guide should help you out. So in the middle, generally have things that are just protein. That's stuff like chicken, fish, lean meats, egg whites, tofu, low-fat Greek yogurt, low-fat cottage cheese. These are all things that they have the highest value of protein in them compared to fats or carbohydrates. So generally we say for your palm of your hand, it's just use some protein. But of course you can see either side there's actually some crossovers. So things that are fat and protein, you obviously need to take a little bit of the fat portion and a little bit of the protein portion. Something like an egg, like the yolk is mostly fat and the white is mostly protein. In oily fish, you've got quite a lot of omega-3 fats, chia seeds, lots of fats, bacon fats, etc. You have to try and think of half of the portion of the fat and half the portion of the protein is accounted for in that food. So in the meal, you have to try and make up the rest with other foods. Either have eggs and then counting that as both the protein and your fat in the meal, or having a couple of eggs and then maybe some extra protein to make up the protein of the meal. For fats, that's things like avocado, olive oil, coconut oil, nuts, peanut butter, seeds, everything like that. These are all very high fat foods, and again, they're quite nutrient dense, so sticking to that thumb size is very important. The only difference is olive oil and coconut oil, so oil is refined, is a little bit more nutrient dense per weight. So you want to try and obviously think a thin layer of oil rather than the whole of your thumb of oil. But things like nuts or avocado, peanut butter, use the whole of your thumb. And then of course carbohydrates. So we try and stick away from processed or refined carbohydrates. Oh, and same with fats. Try and use good fats. So things that are high in omega-3, things that are high in monounsaturated fats. So things like avocado and olive oil and nuts, they have monounsaturated fats. Try and stay away from trans fats, hydrogenated fats, or anything that's really processed. because that's not great for you at all. Carbohydrates, so we're thinking whole grain foods, things that are natural are best, obviously, like sweet potato, pumpkin, starchy veggies are good. The reason I put veggies over here is because they are technically got a small amount of carbohydrate, but generally they are unlimited. Half a cup tan is pretty good for those, and that is cooked, not raw, because if you choose half a cup tan of rice raw, that is about 3 cups of cooked rice, so try and keep it to being cooked. And then we've got these combination foods here as well. So things like beans and lentils, legumes, quinoa, they're all got a little bit of protein in them as well. So obviously take into account a little bit of your protein portion and a little bit of your carbohydrate portion. So hopefully this helps you out. You can stick it out in your fridge and use it to keep your meals nice and balanced, and should keep you on track. Now, applying it. So I like to plan out my days so that I have a balance of the macronutrients in my breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And then my snacks are mainly to just kind of fill the void in my calories. So Navarre's already gone through how to determine your daily caloric intake. So you should have a good knowledge of the amount of calories you should be aiming. And that's when you can start filling in the gaps with your meals. So again, your goal is really important here. So if you are aiming for weight loss, you need to be at a 15% deficit. So that's quite important when you're looking at your day where you're going to actually fill in or make up those calories. I generally use my snacks as a good way to make sure that I'm hitting my goals. So if your goal is weight loss and you want to be in a 15% deficit, you want to try and make sure that your meals are filling and good size, but your snacks you might have as less calorie dense things. So generally you want to try and get a little bit of protein, bit of veggie, bit of carb, bit of fat in your snacks too, but obviously not the full meal size. So for a weight loss plan, I'd still keep my palm of protein, my half cup hand of carb, my thumb of fat, my fist of veggies at breakfast, lunch and dinner. But then at the snacks, I would try and fill them in with more nutrient-dense, low-calorie foods. So things like veggie sticks and maybe a light hummus or fruit and a couple of nuts is good. Whereas if your goal is a weight gain or surplus, if you're wanting to bulk up, then it's probably a good idea to have a 15% surplus. You would want to have your meals, but then maybe adding in more snacks or adding more what you would have for your snacks to your meals. So you're adding up that 15% calories. And then for weight maintenance or body recomposition, you obviously want to eat at maintenance. This is obviously where you eventually want to be, trying to have a very sustainable amount of calories per day. So that's literally just your normal protein, carb, fat, veggie, balanced meal, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And of course, your snacks being pretty balanced as well. So having a source of protein, carb, fat, and veg twice a day. So when you're putting this into practice, it is easiest to track it in apps such as MyFitnessPal, but the hand portion sizing guide is great for just clarifying what you should be having in your meals, and of course what's easiest when you're out in public, so like at a restaurant or at a party, just so that you stay on track with your goals. And of course gets you more familiar and aware of what foods actually contain what macronutrients so that you're getting a balanced diet. Hopefully that helps you out, guys, and